all kind of arrive at the same conclusion. They all play the same deck. I know Ryan is friends with Rahul Reddy, who we saw earlier in the tournament, and well, this actually looks more similar to Jimmy Pendarvis with that Mewtwo.
Yeah, the Mewtwo could be quite big here.
Yep. But Zach, he is running Buzzwole with the Garbodor that we just saw in the previous round with Caleb. Although he's running it a little differently as well. He's not running the Rainbow Energy and Trashalanche, just the Garbotoxin instead.
And he is playing one of those Zygarde EX, which we mentioned earlier on in the stream. If a Mewtwo does come out, that makes your Buzzwole very risky. It's got that Psychic weakness, so Zygarde is a nice check for that Mewtwo there. It doesn't mean that just playing a Zygarde is going to beat it, but it does give you something to do. Now, we do see the prizes coming out here. We got some supporters for Ryan, but nothing terrible there. Nothing to be, particularly worried about. And now Zach does have 2 of his free Buzzwole GX prize, which is less than ideal because that really gives him 2 attackers. He's got 1 Buzzwole and 1 Zygarde left. At least, well, no, 'cause he's not even playing the Garbotoxin, so in terms of good attackers, he's got 2, but would you believe it, he started with a Zygarde anyway.
Yeah, Zygarde might not be great in this matchup. I think in a head-to-head, Buzzwole is a little better than Zygarde EX, but I guess we'll see. Just going to start off with that Fighting Energy, and we did notice there was 1 Fighting Fury Belt in his prize cards. That is another big difference between these 2 decks. Fighting Fury Belt for the extra HP on Zach's side, and Choice Band for the extra damage on Ryan's side. And worth noting, Ryan doesn't have any Field Blower, so that extra 40 HP from Fighting Fury Belt could make a difference.
That's really, really big. Field Blower gets rid of 2 in any combination of Stadium and Tool cards on either side of the field. And yeah, you're right. That Fighting Fury bout is going to really help. Of course, Zach not playing Choice Band means that it's much more difficult for his Buzzwole to KO an opposing Buzzwole. But then again, him playing a Fighting Fury bout means it's much easier for his Buzzwole to survive a hit from an opposing Buzzwole. So it kind of evens it out, and it takes those kind of knuckle impact one-hit KOs we've seen so much this weekend already, almost kind of off the board for both players, it's a very interesting interaction. I do like the Fighting Fury belt. It just does mean that occasionally, and don't get me wrong, you can still one-hit KO the Buzzwole, but it means you've got to have a strong energy with that Fighting Fury belt. You cannot just rely on your basic energy like you'd normally be able to with Choice Band.
Yeah, Zach, with his first search here, sees the bad news. He has 2 Buzzwole GX in his prize cards, so he only has access to 1, at least until he takes a couple prizes. In the meantime, he's going to have to figure out what he wants to do. He's going to start off with the Max Elixir, and as we've noted plenty of times, hitting these Max Elixirs is huge. He does miss on this first one, but getting that extra energy in play is really key to this deck.
Yeah, it's getting the free energy on the Buzzwole. Buzzwole and his Jet Punch early game is great. 30 to the active, 30 to 1 on the bench. It's a really good attack. It spreads damage round, and it starts putting a dent in the big HP of a lot of these big EXs and GXs. But when you get the free energy, and you've got Absorption GX, and you've got Knuckle Impact, then you're looking at big one-hit KOs. And we've seen, if you can get free energy on a Buzzwole early, that can pretty much swing the game in a way that it almost can't be reversed. If you take 2 big KOs of a Buzzwole, which is not outside the realms of possibility, then all of a sudden you're sitting there, you're 4 prizes up, and your opponent is just on the back foot too early. Oh, that is not a nice Professor Sycamore. Getting rid of free fighting energy early doors, and of course, he plays 4 Max Elixir, as does everybody, which means now there's much fewer energy in the deck, which means it's going to be much harder to hit those Max Elixir. That was not a great Professor Sycamore. It made me a little sad.
Yeah, he's going to want to find that Super Rod and shuffle those 3 fighting energy back into his deck. Otherwise, we're going to see Max Elixir like this one, where there's no fighting energy.
He saw a strong energy, and weirdly 2 of his other Max Elixir, but he did not have a basic energy in the top 6 cards of his deck, so he wasn't allowed to attach it to one of his benched basic Pokemon. And so both players have missed 1 Max Elixir, nice and even at the moment. Ryan, I mean, he's got the Rockruff, which is nice. He's got the Remoraid, which is nice. He really wants an energy on that Rockruff to really threaten that dangerous Rogue GX later on in the game. That's the one thing that's really missing from his setup. Having said that, Jet Punch for 80 to the active, 30 to the bench on turn 1. It's a good argument for going second.
Not a bad draw from Zach. Gets the Enhanced Hammer and discards the strong energy straight away. But yeah, I'm interested to see how this matchup is going to go in terms of Zach with the Garbotoxin against Ryan, who relies on Octillery's Abyssal Hand. Will that come into play at all? At face value, it doesn't seem like Garbotoxin affects this matchup very much. Buzzwole doesn't rely on abilities. Bloodthirsty Eyes is great, but you don't really need it for Lycanroc GX to be strong. No. But shutting off that Abyssal Hand could be relevant later on in the game.
Yeah, I think if we see a late game end to 1 or 2 combined with an ability lock to turn off Abyssal Hand, that could be the thing that stops Ryan making that comeback. Now, it does seem like we have a Max Elixir here, which is being hit, which is nice. Zach gets that extra energy onto his benched Buzzwole now. So he's got 2 energy on the board. He hasn't used his attachment for the turn. So in theory here, he could attach to Buzzwole, and there's always a chance that he could hit a second Max Elixir and actually get a big KO this turn. I don't think he probably would, but it certainly helps getting all that extra energy. And it looks like he's content to just keep using Lance Pulse with Zygarde, do that 40 damage, and just carry on and let Ryan have his turn.
Yeah, probably not where he wants to be. Turn 2, you do 40 damage in your hyper-aggressive Buzzwole deck. Your opponent hit you for 80 on his first turn, and you responded by doing 40 damage, but it's not a terrible position. Carbink Break is a very interesting addition to me. The Energy Keeper Carbink, of course, added as attack against a lot of these kind of stall decks we've been seeing that use a lot of Crushing Hammers and Team Flare Grunts and ways to discard your energy. But going one step further and adding the Carbink Break to get some extra energy into play, that's actually pretty interesting.
That could be good as it goes on if you willing to give up a prize. It's not got much HP. It often gets KO'd quite quickly, but just doing it to get that extra energy on the field is pretty cool. That Enhanced Hammer from Zach's turn actually turned out to be quite big, because if he hadn't dropped that Enhanced Hammer, then Ryan could just get a Regirocky X on the bench, and Jet Punch would actually then be doing enough to get the KO on Zygarde. So that Enhanced Hammer's actually proven to be quite big. Ryan here just goes and gets his Octillery, evolves up the Remoraid, so now Abyssal Hand is back on the field, and it looks like he's doing all right in terms of setup here. He's just now thinking, do I use Bloodthirsty Eyes? And it looks like he's getting the evolution, but he doesn't need the ability.
Yeah, and we do see Octillery in play now. And no Garbotoxin on Zach's side, so that Abyssal Hand is going unchecked. Just be able to fill his hand up to 5 cards, and you can see already that's made such a difference. If Zach had gotten that Garbodor into play, we wouldn't be seeing this right now.
No, that would be huge if Zach had got on that Garbodor. There'd be no Abyssal Hand. Ryan would have a very small hand of cards. His options would be extremely limited. I mean, as it is, I don't think he's taking a big KO this turn. What he is doing is putting on a lot of pressure. We did see that Zach has an Ace Roller in hand, which he could use to pick up that Zygarde, reset the energy, get rid of all that damage. But of course, Ace Roller means you're not playing something like an N or a Professor Sycamore to draw more cards, which means that you're then relying pretty much on what you have in your hand, which is not always ideal. Having said that, Zygarde now has 60 HP remaining. It means the residual bench damage from a Jet Punch will get the KO. So if Zach doesn't use the Ace Roller, you know he's got to be incredibly tempted to do so.
Yeah, I have to imagine he'll go for the Ace Roller here, although his follow-up options don't seem great. I mean, you can Ace Roller, but then he's not putting on much pressure in response.
That's my worry with the Ace Roller play, like I said. I mean, on the one hand, yeah, it gets rid of the energy, but what are you going to do? Just Jet Punch for 30 to the active, 30 to the bench? I mean, it's not really getting you ahead, and he doesn't get the Garbodor. He plays the Ace Roller. There's no Garbodor coming out this turn.
Yeah, if he had energy in his discard pile, I could see going for the Diamond Gift, and that's what it looks like here with Carbink Break. If there are any energy in his discard pile, he can power up that Buzzwole GX on the bench and hit for a mighty 20 damage in the process.
Oh, well, you can't turn down a free 20 damage. Oh, so we do see he is going for the Diamond Gift here, which is not a terrible attack, but it really is. It's not for doing damage, it's for accelerating energy. Good news is he does get to accelerate 1 energy. Bad news is he could have got more. There's just not enough in his discard pile, and that's a little bit of a pain for him.
Yeah, so far Zach has not had a great start. Ryan has put on all the pressure with this Jet Punch from Buzzwole GX, and he seems to be clearly in the lead at this point, but as we've seen in these matchups, it is far from over. We do see Ryan playing out a couple cards just so he can Abyssal Hand for an extra one, kind of wasting the energy switch just so he can find a supporter, and he does. Professor Sycamore, but he discards 3 more fighting energy. I think he's discarded 6 at this point.
I was going to say, he's already played a Sycamore to discard 3 fighting energy. Now he's played a second Professor Sycamore to discard another 3 fighting energy. And I'm just looking through his deck list here. I mean, he's got 1 Super Rod that can get 3 of those energy back. But that seems to be the only recovery card he's playing. So that second lot of free energy isn't coming back, which means his Max Elixirs are going to be in jeopardy. Trying to get free energy on a Buzzwole is going to be significantly harder. That's a real worry at this stage. I mean, don't get me wrong. As you play through the game, you're going to have to discard an energy or 2 here or there. That's fine. These things happen. But 6 energy with 2 Professor Sycamore when you've only got enough cards to recover 3 of them. I mean, in the late game, this could really come back to hurt Ryan. I mean, he's 4-0. He knows what he's doing. He's having a good tournament already. But that is a lot of energy to have in a discard this early in the game.
Yeah, the Super Rod is in his deck. I saw it when he was searching with the Brooklet Hill, but he will have to draw it at some point. And even then, it's only 3 energy he's putting back into the deck. 1 of his strong energy already got discarded by an Enhanced Hammer. So yeah, that's a real concern. But as we've seen plenty of times, Buzzwole with 1 energy is pretty threatening on its own.
I certainly wouldn't play a Max Elixir if I was Ryan. Not for a little while yet. We do see the Jet Punch coming down from Ryan, 50 to the active Carbink, another 30 onto that bench Buzzwole. So quietly there, we've just seen 90 damage hitting that Buzzwole, and it looks like Zach is going to hit his Max Elixir, which is lovely for him, getting an energy onto that Zygarde. I like this. He's moving the energy around. He's not putting it all on one Pokemon. And, I mean, the question, I suppose, at this stage, does Zach know that Ryan is playing a Mewtwo? Is he preparing just in case Ryan plays a Mewtwo? Because that's what you often see from players. If they know there's a Mewtwo that could be coming, they're a little bit cagier about their energy attachments. They're not willing to put it all in one place.
It's Professor Sycamore from Zach. Maybe now he'll be able to get that Garbotoxin up and running. He's been a little slow at the start here, but he has not given up any prize cards yet. So even though he's been a little slow, Ryan has discarded a bunch of his energy. Zach has been slowly building up energy on his side, so this game is far from over as we do see the first appearance of that Garbotoxin Garbodor. And my question here is, will we just see another Diamond Gift? As now there are 2 fighting energy in the discard pile.
And I think that's absolutely what we're going to see here. Zach, he's not in a hurry. Like you say, he's given up no prizes. He's seen the energy Ryan's had to discard. So Zach here can use Diamond Gift. He can put 2 energy on that bent Zygarde, because both the energy have to go to the same fighting Pokemon when you use Diamond Gift. And that way he can put both the energy onto Zygarde. And then, you know, that Buzzwole's still only 1 energy card away from being up and rolling as well. Although it does look like he did just put the 1 on the Buzzwole. So, oh no, there we go. That makes more sense. Of course, one of my favourite things about Diamond Gift, it is energy cards, not basic or basic fighting. So you could actually accelerate strong energy using Carbink if you've got any strong energy in your discard, which I really do enjoy about Carbink.
Yeah, the big problem, I think, is Zygarde EX just isn't a strong, big attacker. Its big attack only does 100 damage, and that really doesn't get you anywhere in terms of knocking things out in 1 attack. Buzzwole GX is extremely threatening, 160 damage for 3, and then with the Choice Band or Strong Energy, you can easily knock out opposing Pokemon GX. And then Absorption GX as well can get easy 1-hit knockouts, but 100 is not great. You need multiple Strong Energy, Choice Band, in order to even knock out something like a Tapu Lele GX. So even though there's 3 energy on that Zygarde EX, it's really not threatening much.
No, it's really not. I mean, I think Buzzwole is pretty much a better Zygarde in basically every way possible, except for the fact it's got a psychic weakness. It's a really easy one to take advantage of. Zygarde is worried about things like Golisopod, which, although we've not seen it on stream yet today, it is seeing a lot of play. There's a bunch of Golisopod Zoroark decks in the field, but other than that, it's got a nice weakness, but its attacks just aren't as good. And we do see Ryan here playing a Guzma, bringing up that Buzzwole with the free energy attached to it. And, I mean, I don't think he can do the 100 damage, but what he is doing is he's bringing it very, very close to being KO'd. I think 20 damage away at this stage.
Yeah, bad news for Zach is with Garbotoxin in effect, he has no supporter card in hand and all he has is that Tapu Lele GX. So he's really running low on resources at this point. And again, Ryan does not play Field Blower, so there will be no more abilities for the rest of the game. He can get this knockout here on this Buzzwole GX, but then he's left with just a couple energy in his hand and no real follow-up. I mean, again, he does have Zygarde EX powered up, but it takes multiple turns for that to knock something out.
Yeah, he's getting 2 prizes. Here is Zach. He's using a look like Absorption GX he just used there. We saw the GX kind of flip over. So he does get the prizes there. He's just kind of being hopeful that it doesn't get KO'd this turn, just so he can try and use Knuckle Impact next turn. It's not going to take much for Ryan to get a return KO, but you never know, he might get lucky. You see he's got a strong energy in hand there, so that Knuckle Impact could go up to 180. I mean, 4 energy on a Buzzwole's a lot, but if it takes prizes 3 and 4, that's not a bad thing. I'm looking through, I don't think Zach plays Field Blower either, so apparently a lot of these Buzzwole decks are thinking, I'm not worried about Pokemon tools, we're good. We'll just keep rolling with it. But both players are in a situation now where they don't have much of a follow-up.
Yeah, Ryan doesn't seem to have anything, and he doesn't have access to Abyssal Hand, so I think he's passing.
Oh, wow, that worked out beautifully for Zach. And it might be, I mean, if he's got a Guzma here, he could take maybe a GX KO, but he could even just take a cheeky KO on this Octillery here, go down to 3 prizes remaining, and you know, just keep rolling along with Buzzwole. Because the other thing this gives him is time. Now he's actually choosing to retreat to Carbink here. He's not going and getting a KO. He's leaving that Octillery in the active and just going for another Diamond Gift.
Yeah, he can now power up the undamaged Buzzwole GX. Knocking out this Octillery does nothing for you. Neither player can use ability, so Octillery is worthless. But looks like Ryan may have drawn a great card for the turn. Looks like he drew an M.
Oh, very nice thing to say about Octillery. But unfortunately,
when Octillery has no ability, is that a card you would put in your deck?
No, and you're not playing the energy. So in a very literal way, there is no use for the card in this deck. So I'll let you off this one. But I like it. Like I said last turn, what that really did, the Ryan missing that energy gave Zach time. It gave him an extra turn with no pressure to take a KO. Now he's got free energy on that Zygarde. Not the best attacker, but it's still an option, especially if your opponent isn't drawing very well. He's got free energy on the undamaged Buzzwole, which can then take KOs on something in the future. And he's got that Garbodor up and running, so even though prizes have been few and far between in this game, Zach certainly, he's got the setup going. Ryan here, he needs to just get some attackers going. I mean, there's a free energy Buzzwole on the bench. Well, Mewtwo would like to KO that. Oh, no, wait.
But remember,
Ryan's used a supporter this turn.
And remember, he has barely any energy left. He has discarded 6 of them, and 2 more strong energy are in the discard pile, so he is extremely low on any way to power up his Pokemon until he finds that Super Rod. So even that Max Elixir misses, even though he doesn't have a lot of cards left in his deck, but he just doesn't have energy.
No, and it's so... I mean, at this stage, don't get me wrong, he had to play the Max Elixir. He had to try and get something going. But now Zach's got another turn. Maybe he plays a Guzma if he can get into one. Maybe he just KOs the Octillery. Maybe he tries using, you know, a Diamond Gift if he's got enough energy in his discard to get his 3rd Buzzwole up and running. Although he does attach the... Oh, he's definitely using Diamond Gift now. Discarding. Oh, and he's even drawing into an Ultra Ball, which he can use to get a Pokemon. Of course, he's already got Brooklet Hill on the field. And discarding 2 strong energy is just telegraphing. You know what? I feel like using Diamond Gift to attach both of these strong energy to one Pokemon.
Yeah, the question is, where does he attach them? Does it go to the damaged Buzzwole that can just be knocked up by a Jet Punch? Looks like yeah, but now if Ryan gets an energy, he can just Jet Punch and take down that Buzzwole.
Does have the energy in hand, and that Octillery obviously has a Float Stone, because as we've seen, this is a game where Field Blower is not an option. Nobody likes it. Nobody's playing it. So these Float Stones are staying around. And you're right, that Diamond Gift, I mean, essentially the net use of that Diamond Gift was putting 20 damage onto an Octillery. It didn't really do that much for him. And with that Mewtwo being such a big threat, I could have seen Zach taking the KO on the Octillery there just to, you know, then KO the Mewtwo at some point, and then that's essentially 2 prizes, GX KO, and that's where all the 6 come in.
It's like Ryan's deciding to Guzma for the Zygarde EX, hitting that for 30 damage and then knocking out the Buzzwole GX on the bench. I'm not sure I understand this completely. I mean, it forces Zach to retreat if he wants to get a knockout here, but I don't think Zach plans on attacking with this Zygarde EX very soon, and he could simply pay the retreat cost and attack with his Buzzwole GX, but maybe Ryan just didn't have any better targets.
I think that's essentially it. I mean, that Zygarde is not getting a one-hit KO, and Zach's got a bit of work to do. He would need a strong energy and a Fighting Fury bout, which is, there goes both of those. I like it, they're listening and paying attention. So he's got the KO here, but then, you know, it's a good job he's got the Float Stone. Otherwise, you're getting rid of that energy. Let's not forget, Dangerous Rogue is always an option for Ryan's side of the board. So maybe there was a situation where the Zygarde discards energy to retreat, Dangerous Rogue gets a KO if Zach benches another Pokemon or two, and then all of a sudden, Zach's kind of running low on energy. I think that's where Ryan was going there. I think he was essentially going after the energy, or saying, fine, 2-hit KO me with Zygarde, give me time to get set up.
Yeah, the problem is that Fighting Fury Belt's going to make it so difficult to knock out this Buzzwole GX in one attack. He will have to use Knuckle Impact, which means he might not be able to attack on the following turn, but now, like, with over-attaching energy, he'll be able to take this knockout. He has 4 energy, he can retreat 2 of them, and then attack with the Zygarde EX, and then still threaten a Knuckle Impact on the following turn. So Zach seems to be in the dominant position here. Ryan has never found his Super Rod to shuffle those basic energy back into his deck, and he's just been unable to put up any fight here.
It does look like he's got an energy switch in hand, so if he can find himself an energy, he can get that Mewtwo on the board.
There's none.
Oh, wow.
They're all strong energy.
And strong energy can only be attached to a fighting Pokemon, or else... Well, you technically could attach it, but then it gets discarded?
No,
you
can't
can't attach it. It gets discarded if it ends up on a...
Yeah.
So if you Ninja Boy'd into a non-fighting Pokemon, it would get discarded.
Yep.
So you can't even put it on the Mewtwo there. So strong energy's useless, and you're right. Without that Super Rod, it's... And even Dangerous Rogue now, I mean, with a strong energy and a choice band, it would be doing 200. Well, that's not enough. I mean, Ryan just does not have the options here, and I don't think Zach's going to win next turn, but I do, unless he's got a he's got a Guzma in hand. Yeah, Zach's going to win next turn, as it turns out. So, I mean, Ryan really is under a lot of pressure here. I mean,
all Ryan can do here is energy switch to Mewtwo, play a Sycamore, and hope he draws Super Rod and Max Elixir, and cross his fingers.
Oh, wow. That would be, yeah, that's literally his only option. And if he doesn't do that, Zach wins next turn when he plays the Guzma. So, yeah, it's not the... Oh, he finally hits a Super Rod, but there's no Max Elixir there, so I think that means that as soon as we pass over to Zach, he just plays that Guzma down, and then that really is the game, unfortunately.
Sure looks like it. You know, Ryan still played to his outs. He tried to look for any possible way to win the game, and unfortunately, that Super Rod coming a little too late. Those early Sycamores really were the difference in this game, having to discard all those crucial fighting energy. He just was unable to power up his attackers when he needed to. If he could have gotten 2 energy on his Mewtwo here, could have been telling a different story, but can't put strong energy on Mewtwo, so that seems like that's going to wrap up game number 1.
Well, actually, as it stands at the moment, if that Buzzwole comes active, Zach's only actually doing 190, so he would need to be able to get something else going, because he can't KO the Lycanroc with a Guzma, because he's doing 190, and you can't Guzma the Buzzwole into the active if it's on the bench, but he doesn't bring it in the active, so now the Guzma just brings up the Buzzwole, and that is game.
I agree. I think, Ryan, if he wanted to make it through the turn, I think you're absolutely right. He should just retreat to his Buzzwole. It puts him in a weird position, right, because then Zach can just hit him with Zygarde EX, and then he loses to Guzma eventually. But that was his one way to make it through that turn.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was a great plan. I don't think it was going to swing the game. You know, Zach does win game 1 there, but certainly Ryan could have extended it for a turn or two. Having said that, maybe Ryan didn't want to extend it for a turn or two. Maybe it's looking at a point Ryan knew he wasn't going to win, so not retreating was as good as essentially a concession. Just saying, look, I'm not going to win this game. Let's go to game 2, and hopefully we can pull something out in game 2, because Ryan's got a good deck. He's got the Mewtwo. It just seemed like in that last game he was really, really hurt by that Garbodor.
Yeah, Garbodor did what it does best, and that's make things ugly. That game got very messy once Garbotoxin came into play, for both players, honestly, and it just ended up hurting Ryan a little more as he had to discard his resources early and then couldn't use Abyssal Hand to draw into the rest of his cards.
Yeah, now the good news is, no bad prizes for Ryan there, which is nice. I mean, if you have, 2 max elixirs, not ideal, but going by the way players usually take prizes, you would expect those to be the first 2 taken, and they're the only really bad prizes we see for for Zach there, so not terrible for him. And yeah, I mean, we are actually going in the game. It looks like Ryan is partway through his first turn. He's got himself a Buzzwole using Brooklet Hill, started with a Remoraid, and yeah, just playing out his turn with the lovely Rainbow Rare Buzzwole, the very shiniest of the Buzzwole.
Yep, and it is doing its best flex pose as well. First max elixir does miss for Ryan. Seems to be a common thread here so far in this match. But we'll see if he has to Sycamore away a bunch of energy this game.
Oh, and I got a little peek at Zach's hand there. He did not look good. He had a couple of energy, a float stone. He might have had a supporter that I didn't quite see, but it did not look like Zach had much. Of course, when you're 4-0 in a big international championship, what's the phrase I'm looking for here? You want a very calm, very expressionless face. You want to really make sure that you're not giving much away. You don't want to look too worried when you see your opening hand, or your opponent won't play an N. Having said that, that's not much better.
At least he has an Ultra Ball, I guess.
He does, but then he's got to discard 2 energy to find himself a Tapu Lele to get a supporter.
That's fine. He's got Carbink Break.
Oh, yeah, good point. Okay. Having said that, Carbink Break...
He drew another fighting energy for the turn.
Oh, that's so mean. Oh, he's playing 10 fighting energy and he's seen them all turn 1. But you're right, the fact that he's got Carbink Break, and Carbink Break's not the easiest card to use. You've got to wait for the right turn. You've got to make sure there's a turn where you can afford to essentially just accelerate energy without doing much damage. But we saw in the previous game, Zach found a couple of those turns. Having said that, you've got to imagine Ryan is not going to play a Professor Sycamore to get rid of 6 energy in the first couple turns this game, which will give a whole new dynamic to the pace of the game.
Yeah, it looks like Zach is opting for the N instead of Professor Sycamore. Says, maybe I don't want to discard all of these fighting energy. Let's save a couple for later.
Yeah, getting rid of 1 or 2 energy for Carbink Break, quite nice. Getting rid of 4 of them on the first turn of the game, maybe not. So, playing the end here, I mean, what he's really looking for, first of all, is a float stone. It's nice to get a bit of early damage, get the float stone, retreat the Trubbish, start attacking with the Buzzwole. One thing I notice in Zach's list, he isn't actually playing a Regirock EX. Ryan's playing one, but Zach isn't. So there's no possibility of a strong energy plus a Regirock to get a KO on that Remoraid turn 1. So Zach doesn't have that same pressure to get the strong energy that a lot of players would do. So just doing 30 to that Remoraid, and then you can finish it off with the residual damage from Jet Punch later.
He does have Fighting Fury Belt, which gives him that plus 10 damage option. So instead of Regirock, he's saying, I can strong energy Fighting Fury Belt and still take a knockout on 60 HP Pokemon. But it's going to happen less frequently than just getting another basic Pokemon in play.
Yeah, especially when that Brooklet Hill is on the field. That Regirock is not difficult to find. Of course, here he didn't go for the strong energy. It's always an awkward decision in the early game. You'd rather have the strong energy, but you've got an N. Do you just attach the fighting energy so you know you can attack, or do you play the N hoping to get the strong energy to do a better attack, but knowing that that puts you at the risk of getting no energy and then whiffing the attack? I think Zach did the right thing attaching it, and then of course he plays the N, and of course he drew a strong energy.
Not a great turn for him, though. He does get 2 Trubbish down, so recognizing how important it is to have Garbotoxin in this matchup. I noticed he used Brooklet Hill and grabbed the Buzzwole GX. He actually had one in hand and decided not to bench the other one. Looks like he's trying to play around Dangerous Rogue GX a little bit from that Lycanroc GX, but still wants to get those Trubbish down to make sure he can get that Garbotoxin.
Absolutely, and his hand is not good. It's like fighting energy, strong energy, rescue stretcher. He's going to need to top deck something next turn or hope Ryan plays an end to refresh his hand. Ryan, on the other hand, he's got Octillery, so Abyssal Hand is now on his board at least for a turn or two. He's got that Rockruff on the bench, threatening maybe a Bloodthirsty Eyes ability, maybe a Dangerous Rogue. And we do see a Guzma straight away bringing up that Buzzwole. Ryan, he doesn't really have much interest in those Trubbish at the moment. He wants to put damage on the big GX Pokemon that gives up 2 prizes. So he brings up that Buzzwole. He already had the Float Stone, so he didn't need the Guzma for switching. He just wants to go after that big, bulky Pokemon on Zach's side of the field, really start spreading that damage around.
Yeah, he opted to attach strong energy to the Rockruff as well. He could have attached the second energy to his active Buzzwole GX to threaten the Knuckle Impact knockout for the next turn, or the Absorption GX even, but looks like playing a little bit more conservatively, valuing that Lycanroc GX a little more than just charging up a big Buzzwole GX.
And stop me if you've heard that one before. Zach top decked a fighting energy. It's all he can draw this game. He's got free energy and a rescue stretcher in his hand. And, I mean, we see he discarded 2 early game and then he played the end and just draw a whole bunch of energy. And Zach is just drawing very little but his energy this game. He's playing 1 more than his standard. Generally 9 fighting, 4 strong is standard. He's going for the 10 fighting, 4 strong. But you still wouldn't expect to just be drawing energy after energy. He's got no supporter. He's not got the Garbotoxin on the board. And really, all he's doing is just sitting there and using Jet Punch. And now, Ryan, there might be a little bit of regret not putting the energy on the Buzzwole, because now he'd just be able to put 1 energy on the active Buzzwole, take a KO, and really limit Zach's options. Because you know Ryan has noticed how little Zach is doing on his turns, but it looks like Ryan is not going to get a KO this turn. Because unfortunately, as it stands at the moment, there's only 1 energy on that active Buzzwole.
Yeah, Ryan is playing Ultra Ball here for Lycanroc GX. He needs to make sure he can evolve that Rockruff so it doesn't get knocked out by a Jet Punch on the following turn. It looks like he's not opting to use Bloodthirsty Eye, so just wants to continue Jet Punching away on the active Buzzwole GX. But this is honestly the best situation that can happen for Zach. Given his hand, all he'll need to do next turn is play an energy and attack for a knockout, and he might get something good out of his prize cards. Whereas, you know, if Ryan had committed to this active Buzzwole GX and knocked it out, Zach would have been left with nothing.
And this is what I say far too often about the Pokemon trading card game. You often end up in situations where there are multiple plays. You don't know what the right play is. There's loads of games where putting a strong energy on the Lycanroc, spreading your energy around and going conservative gives you that late game longevity that gives you the win. As it turns out in this particular game, with hindsight, better to put the strong energy on the active Buzzwole, because he'd be able to take Zach's only threat off the board, while Zach has clearly got nothing good in his hand. But there's no way to know that when you play the energy. It's all just guesswork. And Ryan does miss that max elixir there, which is a little bit sad. Having said that, I don't think Zach's got that much sympathy right now when he looks at his hand.
Yeah, probably not. Ryan will be able to Jet Punch here for another 60 damage, which does leave the Buzzwole GX with 70 HP, which is not an easy number to get to. He'll need another Choice Band and a strong energy to do another Jet Punch. But yeah, Zach, I think he'll be fine with this trade. It's certainly not an ideal situation for him. He's still got really nothing going, but honestly, this is better than his Buzzwole getting knocked out.
Yeah, and he's still got that Brooklet Hill, so that can search him for another Pokemon next turn to get him an attacker. And that enhanced hammer was really, really big because he managed to get rid of the strong energy on Lycanroc, which, you know, was threatening that dangerous rogue. Now it's not anymore, and I think Zach's using Brooklet Hill here. I was going to say, now that he got rid of that strong energy, now is the turn to get that Buzzwole. Now, he knows that Lycanroc is not a threat. You cannot max Elixir onto a Lycanroc. It's not a basic Pokemon. So the chances of, you know, anything going wrong are much, much slimmer. Zach can use that Brooklet Hill without worrying about his bench, because unless that Buzzwole gets knocked out, then it doesn't really matter. If Buzzwole gets knocked out and his bench goes down, or he's got too large a bench, but his Buzzwole isn't knocked out, so he doesn't really mind because he's not lost any prizes. Either way, he wins this.
His 2 prizes were 2 max elixirs.
Oh, that's not... Oh, of course, we saw that in the prize at the beginning.
Yeah. Would you like more energy, Zach? Here we go.
He's like, no, they're all in my hand.
I'm surprised he actually didn't go for Carbink off of the Brooklyn Hill. He has Rescue Stretcher in hand, and he discarded the Carbink break earlier. It would have given him a bit of insurance in case this Buzzwole GX does get knocked out. He could Rescue Stretcher for Carbink break, Brooklet Hill for the Buzzwole GX, and then Diamond Gift to power it up, but looks like just opting to get another Buzzwole GX. Maybe, again, just not wanting to put more Pokemon on his bench.
No, and I think that might be it. I mean, it's nice having 4 Pokemon on your bench because at the end of the day, like I've said, either your Buzzwole doesn't get knocked out, so you're fine, or it does get knocked out, and then you're down to that free bench Pokemon, which is really the number you're looking to have in this game. I do like the Carbink play. I think it's a very sensible play. But similarly, maybe Zach's thinking, I don't need to slow the game down at that stage. You know, it's slow enough. I just want to keep attacking. He used Absorption GX last turn, so Knuckle Impact is on the board for this turn to maybe get him another KO. And he's gonna...
There's the energy switch.
I spoke too soon. Turns out Dangerous Rogue was an option.
Yeah. Energy Switch is not a card we see very often, but we're seeing a lot of the players from the U.S. bringing it to this tournament in this Lycanroc Buzzwole deck, and it's for situations like this. This deck is all about getting to your big attacks that cost multiple energy, and it can make your deck a little bit clunky sometimes where you just, you missed your max elixir here, but Energy Switch gives you the flexibility to say, I can now threaten this attack where it was not possible before. But now I can just take this energy that was hanging out on this Buzzwole and let's move it over to Lycanroc GX and, oh, look, now I can use Dangerous Rogue GX.
And he is going to get the KO here. You said yourself, you know, that 70 damage was an awkward number to hit. He actually ended up hitting for 200, which I think said slightly more than 70 the last time I looked at my numbers.
Yeah, a little bit.
So now Zach is in an awkward position, but of course, even if he had the Carbink, well, now Claw Slash is a genuine option. You know, doing 110, 130 if you pop on a strong energy. And Carbink Break, you know, has only got 110 HP. It wouldn't have been staying around for very long. But what does Zach do now? I mean, essentially, he needs to play those max elixirs and hope he hits them, or maybe go Carbink, but a turn later than he maybe wanted to, because he can't evolve it into Carbink Break this turn. He's got to wait one more turn to get that evolution going. Whereas, like you say, had he played the Brooklet Hill last turn, he could be evolving it right now. As it stands, he doesn't even have a way to get that Trubbish out of the active. He could, in theory, attach a strong energy double max elixir, maybe actually get a free energy Buzzwole, but then it's just chilling on the bench.
Yep. And first max elixir does fail. As we said, he drew lots of fighting energy, so probably not very many left in his deck at this point.
No, it's going to make it very difficult to hit those max elixirs, and if you're Zach at this stage, you're genuinely concerned about a Lycanroc. Lycanroc is not the best attacker outside of Dangerous Rogue, which is phenomenal, but Claw Slash will add up pretty quickly if all it's being hit for is like 30 damage a turn from a Jet Punch. Now, Zach does hit that second max elixir, which is nice. He's got a strong energy in hand, but again, no way to get that Trubbish out the active, so it looks like Zach is essentially letting Ryan take a KO. And there's still single prize Pokemon on Zach's bench, so it's not like Ryan is being forced into a 7-prize game here, because he can just KO that other Trubbish, KO that Carbink. So Ryan really moving into the driver's seat in this game.
Yeah, and it feels like Zach might just be one turn off at this point, where if he had gone for the Carbink a turn earlier, this would look much different. We would see Buzzwole GX with 2 energy on it on the bench, and then the Carbink, well, maybe even 3 energy with the max elixir. This game just would have looked much different. Now Ryan can take this opportunity, play Guzma, and hit this Buzzwole before it's ready.
And then that, of course, is going to make it so that even if Zach does get the energy on, it's going to be too late. I mean, if it's not on the bench, you can't use max elixir. And Ryan here, no, he did put an energy on the Buzzwole, so it looks like we're going Jet Punch on the Buzzwole rather than Claw Slash on the Lycanroc here. And we do see a Super Odd coming out, so that's going to get him some energy, some Pokemon back. Although I didn't actually catch what he got there, unfortunately.
Yeah, I didn't see either, but I think I would guess probably just a bunch of energy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a safe bet, especially if he's got Max Elixirs left. So Ryan here can just start using that Jet Punch, start whittling away down on Zach's Pokemon. And even if Zach has Max Elixir now, there's no good targets on his bench. He'd be relying on hitting, something like an Energy Switch. And of course, he's not playing Energy Switch. He's playing stuff like Carbink instead. So Ryan here, he's playing quite slowly, he's playing quite conservatively, but he's getting the energy on the field, he's getting the damage on the field, and he's setting himself up, and Zach still is not drawing very much at all.
He drew a Max Elixir.
Oh, that's a little bit sad.
Yeah, he does Rescue Stretcher for Carbink Break, but his hand is nothing. You have to wonder if maybe, his bench was full, so he couldn't even Rescue Stretcher for Tapu Lele thanks to the Parallel City he played last turn. This is just an ugly spot. I think if you're Zach, you would contemplate just conceding the game at this point. That depends on if you think you can win a Game 3. If you're content for a tie, just take your time.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the exact same thing. This is the point in the game where you really have to start thinking about conceding. But, again, it comes down to that Game 3. I mean, if you start at 4-0, taking a tie here is not so bad. Round 1 tie, you really want some wins under your belt. But going 4-0-1, the first 5 rounds of a 9-round tournament, most players, if you asked them at the beginning, hey, after 5 rounds you're 4-0-1, most players would take that. So there is a situation here where Zach goes, I don't like Ryan's deck. I don't like my matchup against Ryan's deck. And let's face it, when he won round 1, Ryan had those really awkward Professor Sycamores. It might be that Zach thinks that right now a tie is a good situation, so let's just play this out, let's just carry on with this game, and give the lovely casters another tie.
Looks like Ryan recognizing that Carbink Break is one of the only ways Zach is going to come back into this game, so targets it down with the Guzma, and we are going to see that Claw Slash for the knockout, and this game seems like it's pretty much over at this point. Zach could draw something here, like Professor Sycamore, to get back into this, but he draws another energy.
How does one man have so much energy? And there's been games where he just cannot draw energy. Yeah. And there we go. Zach decides he's had enough. A man cannot live on energy alone. He concedes the game. And we're tied up at 1 game each here. Going into the final game of this match. We are short on time. We've only got about 9 minutes left. But the good news is that since he lost game 2, Zach will be able to go first in game 3 if he wants to.
I'm going to guess he will.
Yeah, generally players tend to like going first for some reason.
Yeah. Who knows why, but yeah, everyone likes to go first. This looks like a pretty even series at this point. I think Zach, if he thought he was a favorite in this matchup, he should have conceded the game a long time ago just to give himself some more time. He did end up winning game number 1. Yeah, Ryan had to throw away a lot of his energy, but it seems like once Garbotoxin comes into play, the Fighting Fury Belts, it just gives him enough of an edge in this matchup, I think, where he probably feels favored when he's going first. And that Carbink Break gives so much energy acceleration, it makes it so you don't have to rely on that Max Elixir as much. And now he's just in a position where he probably doesn't have enough time to win unless something weird happens, like Ryan has a Remoraid and nothing else.
Yeah, and the other thing is, and this is very awkward, of course, when you've got 8 minutes for the game, Carbink isn't really an option. Carbink is a mid-game refresh. Oh my goodness, all 3 Fighting Fury Belt in the prizes.
Bravo.
That's not something we expect to see. Oh, that's not what you want. And of course, that could be big. Like we said, he's not playing Regirock. Fighting Fury Bout is how he does 60 on turn 1 to KO a Remoraid or a Rockruff, which of course is a genuine option. He's going first. He'll get to attack before Ryan's been able to evolve. And maybe he could get some easy prizes that way. That's not an option anymore. Fighting Fury Bout is off the board, which means there is no turn 160. And I really do think we are once again headed to a tie here because, I mean, Carbink really is not an option because that's just slowing down to the point where you're going to end up tying. You know, if you really want to go aggressive, you want to get, oh my goodness, free strong energy for Ryan. What is going on with these prizes this match?
The odds of this happening are astronomically low.
That's not something we're expecting. The one saving grace, Ryan at least has a 4th strong energy.
Oh boy. Well, at least Zach is starting off with his Bridget this game. He'll be able to get those Pokemon out onto his bench. But with 6.5 minutes and these giant Pokemon GX with 190 HP, it's going to be difficult to get enough knockouts to win the game quickly. But if one player can start off with, 2 Max Elixirs onto a Buzzwole GX and get a turn 1 Knuckle Impact or turn 2 for Zach, hey, I've seen games end pretty quickly.
I mean, that's how you win here. It is getting a super quick Buzzwole, Absorption for a KO, Knuckle Impact for a KO, and then Guzma, and then a Retreat for a 3rd Knuckle Impact to get a KO. You can win essentially in 4 turns, and it's possible, but that is what it's going to take here, I think, for one of these players to take it home. Good news is Zach has a Max Elixir to start off with, and he hits a 2 strong energy. That's upsetting. You can't do that with Max Elixir. So Ryan's prized all his strong energy. Zach can find them all, but only using Max Elixir. And yeah, this does not look like it's going to be some game where one player just goes off. At least that's not the early impression that we're getting. Oh, we've got another Max Elixir.
Well, we'll see.
Oh, he has hit it on this one.
All right, well, 1 for 2, not bad.
Not bad. So, and he's got energy in hand he can attach. So, to be honest, he can't attach this turn anyway. He only needed 1 Max Elixir and a Floatstone. So, if he just attaches an energy this turn, then next turn he could start this whole absorption malarkey. And the good news for him is that there's no enhanced hammer, I don't believe, on Ryan's deck list, which means he can attach a strong energy without worrying about it being hammered away. Now, Zach does go basic energy, not strong. I think he might be worrying about enhanced.
Yeah, I mean, even if you think your opponent doesn't play it, you get punished so hard if you play the strong energy and your opponent discards it. I think it's smart. If you aren't 100% positive your opponent doesn't play enhanced hammer, just play the basic energy. You can play the strong energy next turn.
Absolutely, and that is generally the way to go. Of course, Knuckle Impact here is only going to do 180, no Fighting Fury Belt to pop it up to 190. Absorption's going to get the first KO, but Zach's going to need to put 2 strong energy onto a Buzzwole if he wants to Knuckle Impact for a KO here with those Fighting Fury Belts in the discard, unless he draws one from a KO, which he probably will, because statistically he should draw one every GX KO.
Yeah, you would think so. So we see one difference here between these two decks. Zach used his Bridget on his first turn. A lot of these Buzzwole Lycanroc decks don't play Bridget. They want to be playing other supporters on their first turn. And Ryan actually going for Lily on his first turn. He actually Ultra Balls away a couple cards and then Super Rods them back into his deck, trying to play his hand down as far as he can so he can Lily and fill his hand up to 8 cards.
That's a good play. I like Lily as a turn 1 play. It's something you can only really do with Tapu Lele, because otherwise you want to play 4 to maximize your chances of having it turn 1, but then if you play 4, you draw it when you don't really need it. So Tapu Lele really does make Lily a viable card, a really good card here. Ryan grabs his Rockruff. That's nice. I mean, there's not much he can do. He's not going to Max Elixir onto his Buzzwole, because his Buzzwole isn't on the bench. He gets that manual attachment. He does have Energy Switch, but it doesn't look like he's got any Max Elixir or anything like that. So it is just going to Zach now, and Zach's got a strong energy, so if he's got a Floatstone, which he does, he's going to get an Absorption GX KO here. We could yet see a winner.
It is certainly possible. If Ryan doesn't have any immediate response, this one Buzzwole GX can go all the way. There's one GX knockout available, and then Tapu Lele GX is another one. Then all it takes is, taking down another Buzzwole GX, and we could see Zach taking the match. Now, Ryan does have plenty of ways to deal with a Buzzwole GX that has 3 energy on it. We've mentioned the Mewtwo, which is yet to make its appearance in this series, but the Mewtwo Psychic could get the knockout on that Buzzwole GX. Also, the Sudowoodo could use Watch and Learn But this all involves Max Elixir. And if Ryan can't get one, he's really going to have no way to respond to this 190 HP Pokemon that's going to wipe out everything in its path.
And this is where the lack of Fighting Fury bout really hurt Zach, because then he would be able to play a Fighting Fury bout and he would be able to take that hit at least from Sudowoodo. So it is awkward at this stage. Zach, those Fighting Fury bouts really hurting him by the fact that they're gone. Now, we do see Ryan here using the Brooklet Hill, searching for a Pokemon, might go for another Buzzwole to try and, just stall out the game, put some damage on the board, might go for a Sudowoodo if he thinks he can hit the Max Elixir. He's going a little bit safer here. He's going for the Buzzwole. He does recognize, of course, that as it stands at the moment, Zach doesn't have the KO. He's only hitting 180, but he does actually have a Max Elixir.
Yeah, I think this is going to go into Rockruff.
Yeah.
If he can get a Strong Energy or a Choice Band, he can Dangerous Rogue GX and knock out that Buzzwole with his Lycanroc GX. And that is one good way to swing this game back into his favor.
And I think that's got to be what he's looking for here. He does have the Choice Band. All he needs is an Energy and a Lycanroc. He's already... Oh, there's the Energy. And there's a Professor Sycamore. This is a huge Sycamore. We are looking for a Rockruff, although the Rockruff would then basically guarantee the tie. So, cheer as appropriate, I suppose. There comes the Ultra Ball for the Lycanroc. Or I suppose he could go Sudowoodo, but I'm assuming he's going Lycanroc.
Yeah, he's already got the energy on that Rockruff. So Lycanroc GX will be the choice. And that will pretty much stop all of Zach's aggression. All the energy is going to go straight to the discard pile. And he's going to have to go to that backup plan of Carbink.
Yeah, and that is the problem here, Zach. And I love Zach's play. I think what Zach did was absolutely right. That was his one chance of winning a game in 6.5 minutes flat. As it stands, it didn't work, and I don't think Ryan's winning this game. I think all Ryan's really done here is stop Zach winning this game. Time is being called in 5 seconds, so Zach will have this turn and one more. Ryan will have 2 turns. In theory, they could both take a GX KO on both turns to win the game. But, if Zach doesn't bench a second GX here, Ryan will not win this game. And Ryan, similarly, Zach's not taking 2 GX KOs here. I just don't think it's likely.
Yeah, it's incredibly unlikely. I think he almost has to go for it if he wants to try to win. He could very easily just say, oh, okay, we tie, and just kind of give it up. The only way he could pull it off is if he got a double Max Elixir onto his Buzzwole GX with the Strong Energy. That still doesn't get there, because he doesn't have Choice Band in his deck.
Nope, no Choice Band. And even if he got a Fighting Fury bout off his prizes, we're still only talking 190. And Lycanroc's got 200 HP. It wouldn't be enough. So he's got Carbink Break here. It doesn't really matter. If Ryan doesn't take a GX KO next turn, well, it doesn't matter. We are headed to a tie here. There isn't 2 GXs on Zach's side of the field, which means Ryan cannot win in 2 turns. We have had confirmation time has been called in this game, so Ryan cannot win in 2 turns. Zach, unless this next turn goes in a way we're really not expecting, is not going to win in this turn and one more. So the inevitable conclusion is, unless one player chooses to concede, there is no way this doesn't end in a tie.
Yeah, and that Fighting Fury belt also wraps this game up. There's no way Ryan can do 230 damage on his next turn. It's just not possible, given the situation. And it looks like Zach's going to play it out and, go ahead and use Diamond Gift, 20 damage, get some energy onto his Zygarde EX, but that is going to be it. There's just not enough time for these players to close out the third game. And there we do see the handshake. And Ross, we have our 4th tie today. 5
rounds, 4 ties. Although I will say, the one round we didn't have a tie, we actually saw 2 victories,
yes,
which does help to even it out just a little bit. There are games that aren't ending in ties. Both these players were 4 wins, 0 losses, 0 ties before this game. And I think at this stage, players are going to be crossing their fingers. Please don't put me on stream. I don't want to tie. But we're seeing good games. We're seeing really good players with really good decks playing really well. We're not seeing ties because one player doesn't draw well.